Oh, hi there. Well, that's what you would be hearing me say, except for my GoPro's audio completely got corrupted while doing this. But yes, if you look behind me, there's another E46 on a trailer. I borrowed my friend's truck, and I went and recovered this one. It is an identical spec to my drift car. It's a 1998 E46 328i sedan in black with a 5-speed. Now, you may be wondering, why did I get this vehicle? Well, one, it was $400. It's a complete E46 that kind of runs for $400. Second, I may have broken the drift car. It's a long story, and you may have already seen, or you're going to see in a future episode, depending on how I edit this, but I kind of hurt the drift car, and now it barely runs. So I'm going to use the parts cart to get some useful parts off of it and put it into the drift car and hopefully make it good as new. And along the way, I'm going to part this thing out and try and learn as much about the E46 platform as possible while hopefully making all my money back and then some. So let's jump into it. All right, this is it. This is my new E46 parts car. It looks pretty good when it's in the shade or from a distance, but it's kind of beat up when you're up close. But let's run through what this car has, because there's a lot of juicy parts. Some I'm going to use on my drift car, and some I'm going to try and sell off. So, working from the front here, you see it has these aftermarket matte black kidney grills, which are in pretty good shape. It has an M3 rep bumper, which looks good from a distance, but it has some war wounds up front. Hopefully someone still wants it anyway. Aftermarket clear corners. It appears to have halos in the very clouded over headlights. I don't know if those work very well. Silver and gray BMW badge, I guess if anyone wants that. As far as body panels themselves, hood is pretty thrash, but opens and closes just fine. Black fenders, which are in okay shape. Tinted side markers, which are fine. Interestingly, it has M3 style sedan side skirts, which are actually pretty nice for what they are. I might try and sell those. I'm not sure I want those for a drift car. I'm just gonna break them. Doors are in fine shape. He flared the crap out of the quarter panels, so those are pretty beat. Out back, more interesting stuff. This is an M-Tech 2 rear bumper, OEM, so it has the cool valence. It's kind of scraped up, but still worth money to someone. LED sedan Euro-style taillights. Very nice touch. I might keep those, might sell those, not quite sure. This one has a little bit of crack in it, but it seems to work just fine. Standard trunk, open and closes just fine. This side is much the same. Quarter panels are pretty beat up. These doors are a little bit rougher. You know, they're missing the side trim. Again, M3 side skirt, M3 style side skirt, though a little bit of superficial damage. I'm sure you can paint over that or repair and paint it. You'd be good to go. Let's go inside the vehicle. Yeah, so the door card clips are all broken off. So I ended up just taking the door card off. It's just right there. Pretty beat, but a lot of good stuff in here. Don't mind the door card. All black interior, kind of desirable in the community. Sport seats, which are power and heated. So sport steering wheel too. Dash is in good shape. Interestingly, this guy must have flocked or repaired the pillars, because the A-pillars are black fabric and look pretty nice. Same with the headliner. Headliner looks great for an E46, which is very rare. Obviously, rear seats black as well, in pretty good shape. Now, this thing had some sort of aftermarket speakers in it. If you look at the door card, Pioneer speakers in the door cards, and upgraded speakers in the rear deck back there. Actually, top hood. So, no hood pops, hot poppers, unfortunately. This motor, it looks nice and shiny. That's actually because it's just covered in oil. This thing has a massive oil leak in the motor. It's pretty much junk, but the previous owner threw a lot of parts at it trying to fix it. So, brand new fan, brand new map, intake boots. Interestingly, has aftermarket headers, which you can see down there. I'm not sure what brand those are. They look really nice. Might steal those. Not sure yet. There's more good stuff in the engine bay. You can kind of go through and dig it all apart. Has a strut tower brace. The actual brace itself is in the trunk. Close this as gently as we go. There we go. Yeah, motor is leaking oil everywhere. It looks like he must have hit something and just didn't repair it right and just leaked oil out everywhere. You can see it's actually dripping. I have to clean that later. Yeah, bottom of the engine is a total mess. You can see it has this, I think it's a cooling block off where there's like coolant in here and oil through there, and just completely broke it and ran this thing out of oil. Everything under here is pretty complete. You can see those headers. up there, which I want to take those off and see what brand those are. It looks interesting. And this thing has Bilstein Sport struts with H&R lowering springs, and obviously the Bilstein Sport shocks in the back with the H&R springs as well. Might try and sell those. And going underneath the car at the back, custom exhaust set up with a muffler delete. It actually looks pretty nice. You know, someone took the time to build these hangers. Pretty sure it's just an OEM exhaust the rest of the way through, but this is pretty nice, probably worth a few bucks. And this M-Tech bumper's probably worth a couple bucks too. Wow, the diff is leaking really bad, just like my drift car. That sucks, I'll have to clean that up later. But yeah, let's start dismantling this thing and taking off what I want and selling what's left. All right, so I got the M3 Rep bumper off first. Took about 5 minutes, give or take. As you might be able to tell, I was able to skip a lot of steps because this car is so hacked. It's actually missing just so many things. So getting the bumper off was literally just like 2 screws and the main 2 bolts to hold it into the bumper bar support. So let's try and list this guy for sale. Hopefully get a few bucks for it. It's not in great shape, but hopefully someone wants an M3 style bumper on the low. And the bumper sold in 1 day too, 60 bucks. Okay, so carrying on with tearing down the E46 parts car, and while this car has a lot of things on it that are absolutely terrible, it also has a lot of things on it that are pretty nice. Like someone at some point put some effort into this thing, and one of the things they did a good job on with this car is the interior pillars. Now on the E46, the sedans and the coupes, the interior pillars are known to kind of just fall apart from age. And at some point, this guy clearly took the whole interior pillars of the headliner off and had them redone. So it looks like they've been flocked or wrapped in some way. So they actually look really nice. So someone contacted me and said, I want to buy the pillars and the headliner, and so I'm in the process of taking all that stuff out right now. So I got the C pillars out of the car, and unfortunately, the previous owner was a total hack, and this is no exception. The A and B pillars came out kind of fine, but the C pillars were a real struggle. I should say this one came out easily, and I realized why. It's because he broke both the clips on the back and just shoved it basically into the corner. So it was sitting in place just fine, but the clips were all broken off. Went to the driver's side and noticed there was a screw here where it screwed the C pillar into the headliner, which is obviously wrong. And sure enough, they broke all this too. And it kind of just, again, slid into the bottom of the seat cushion and then screwed into the headliner. And I found they'd used chicken wire where this clip was supposed to be, which is complete bullshit. I'm gonna tell the guy who's interested in these and see if he still wants them or not, but that's really shitty. Oh, hi there. This car is a dumpster. I contacted the guy who wanted the pillars and headliner, showed him some pictures of the C pillars, and he said, okay, well, that's still fine. I guess with the price negotiated, which was kind of low on my part, kind of take what you can get. So next step is to get the headliner out. Never moved a headliner on a car, but what better car to learn on, I suppose, than a car you don't care about. So let's get to it. So I mentioned that the parts car had a lot of interesting things inside of it, and in addition to the parts that were actually bolted onto the car, there were a lot of just spare parts floating around inside of it. The car was pretty filthy inside and out, but it did have a lot of spare parts lying around. And one of the things that was in there was a spare MAF. I tested it and it looked pretty good. So I ended up listing it for sale and selling it for 40 bucks on the same day. All right, headliner is off. Let me look at the timer. So in case you're wondering, that took 15 minutes in the real world to do. Now the only trick is obviously going to be getting it out of the car. So, as you can see, a lot has happened with the E46. Shortly after I got the car on jack stand, started taking parts off. Remember, I sold the front bumper and I was working on the interior. I got all the pillars off and the guys couldn't pick the pillars up now. Someone else contacted me and they also said they had a black pre-facelift E46 sedan and their cars went to the body shop. They needed straight panels. And so they actually came, the guy was super cool. We pulled both the passenger doors off, so actually the doors were totally straight in this, as well as the trunk, since his trunk had a huge dent in it. He also bought the M-Tech 2 rear bumper, as well as the LED taillights. So that all happened really fast, and the guy literally just came like within a day, like within the same day, we kind of knocked all that out. There's been a few more little odds and ends sold, you know, small things in the engine bay here and there. You know, like the OEM black kidney grills, which are actually OEM, expansion tanks, small stuff like that. And it's kind of added up to the point where, oh, I forgot, I sold the drive shaft too, because another guy messaged me while I had the car in jack stands and he pulled the drive shaft. And, oh, the side skirts too, sold those as well. And the long and short of it is that this, there's still a few things left on this car. It looks better in video than it does in person, so a lot of these panels are actually kind of beat up. But while there are a few things left in this car, it's more a function of time. So, you know, I can spend a couple hours trying to pull the few remaining good parts out of this thing, or try to pull the engine or the trans out, but my time's kind of better spent elsewhere as far as making money is concerned. So I actually called LKQ Pick Apart, the junkyard, and they're actually on the way to pick this vehicle up. So once they get this thing taken away and they give me the cash, we can go over the final tally of how much I've made parting this car out, as well as getting the few parts I needed for my personal drift car off this thing. So let's check back in a second. Alright, so my time with the E46 parts car has come to a close, and now it's time to break down the amount of money I put into this project. So I have a tracker here, it's my build sheet for the drift car. I've kept track of every cent and dollar I put into that thing, and the parts car is no exception. So here is the breakdown. I bought the car for $400, and then I paid my buddy Tim $50 to borrow his truck and trailer. Now that is a key part of this whole thing, is that I had access to a cheap means of picking up a non-running vehicle. If you don't have access to a tow truck or a truck with a trailer, this will make this a lot more difficult for you. So I have $450 into the car at that point. And then, like I mentioned, the car had a bunch of odds and ends in it, so I started listing various things I found in the car for sale. So the first thing up for sale the very next day was a spare mat that was in the trunk. I sold that for $40. Then obviously the M3 Rep front bumper, I sold that for $60. Then there was the package deal I mentioned, where one guy came in and bought tons of things off the car all in one go. So he bought the M-Tech 2 rear bumper, the LED taillights, the trunk, the passenger side doors, the M3 style side skirts, as well as a little in-trunk tower brakes that came with the car. For all that, I got $370. Then there was the other guy who came, wanted the manual drive shaft. That was an extra $100. And then, I didn't mention this in the video, but I did mention at first that the car had a Bilstein sport suspension with H&R lowering springs. I traded that for stock blown suspension plus 170 bucks. That way I keep the car rolling. That's 170 bucks there. Then the interior panels, I sold those for $120. And then for the remainder of the car itself, LKQ Pick Apart came, picked up the vehicle from me, gave me all the paperwork needed to release liability from the vehicle, deregister it, all that, and they ended up paying me $220 for the car. That means my total profit on the car was $630. In addition to taking the various odds and ends off of it that I wanted for my personal E46. The whole thing ended up taking 1 month and 6 days. And that was a lot of kind of odds and ends. You know, sometimes weekends working on it, sometimes letting the car sit for a few days. I kind of had that luxury of just shoving it in the garage and dealing with it when I had time. So there are big gaps in there. The actual amount of time in terms of labor days, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The actual amount of labor time in terms I put into this vehicle was spread out over the course of 7 days. So pretty stoked on that to not only learn more about the E46 platform, how to take stuff apart, how to wrench in the car even further, if my car ever needs it, but making $630 in profit is a pretty nice little kickback from this. So if you're thinking about buying a parts car of your own, trying to make a little bit of a profit, that's kind of my template for you. Now, as I mentioned, there's obviously a lot more on that vehicle I could have taken out. Like, for example, I have a lot of interest in people wanting the manual transmission. E46s are pretty simple to do manual transmission conversions, even auto car, because they're old enough to be, of course, pretty simple. Again, it came down to a function of time. So, do I have the mechanical ability to pull an engine transmission from the car? Yes. Do I necessarily want to do it? No. And when you factor in the time involved to do that sort of process, it just wasn't worth my while. For example, I have access to a cherry picker, but it's back at my old place where I used to live in Long Beach, where I left it with my roommate. So I'd have to go down to Long Beach, disassemble the cherry picker so I could fit it in my car, bring it back up here, reassemble it, and then begin pulling the engine and transmission, as well as, you know, pulling the clutch pedal and make sure the hydraulics are good. And I didn't even know if the transmission worked very well. So again, there were a lot of what ifs and could do's on this platform. I kind of just pick and chose what I figured would be easy and simple enough and worth my while. I suspect that if I really nitpick and tore everything else off that car, I can make about $400 to $500 more with the manual transmission swap kit I could put together being a big part of that. Okay, that's all I've got for this episode. Long one. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. Hopefully you guys found this enjoyable. I'm definitely tempted to do this again. I mean, this was pretty easy. Again, it was side work and stuff I do after my day job. I come home, or on the weekends I just pick apart the car and kind of go piece by piece on it. And again, pretty enjoyable. So hopefully you found this enjoyable. Please subscribe if you've not already. That definitely helps me out a ton. And yeah, stay tuned for more fun stuff. I'm gonna get the drift car running up very soon so we can go drifting with it again, because I really wanna go drifting. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for more fun things with cars. All right, see you guys, bye.